I'm Amy, sex educator, sex and relationship coach, and sex shop owner.
And I'm April, VP of an international high-end pleasure products company and boss queen sex toy mogul. We're best friends who make our own rules about who we are as sexual beings.
With everything from how to be a badass in the bedroom to top tips for bringing your relationship to the next level, we have something just for you.
So sit back, relax,
And enjoy the show. Don't forget to head on over to our website at shamelesssex.com for more. And for 15% off of some of our favorite sex toys, use coupon code SHAMELESSPP in all caps at purepleasureshop.com.
You were listening to a pleasure podcast. For more from our sex podcast collective, visit pleasurepodcasts.com.
Hello, everyone.
Hey, everybody.
So I have a question.
Yeah?
When you have a puppy and you're having sex
Near him?
with you, do you ever feel like it's wrong?
Well, since I did that yesterday and I got some squirting juices on him.
my gosh.
Because he was in the bed. So he's too small. He was too small. So he's too small to jump off the bed because he will break a leg or something because he's 2.5 pounds and the bed's too high up. Like he can't jump off your couch right now. He's too scared. And so if I put him down on the ground, he tends to take a big shit somewhere. So I can't put him on the ground. But if he's in the bed, I can like know that he's there and he won't pee or poo on the bed. So I leave him in there during the sexual intercourse.
You mean the copulation?
The copulation.
The fornication.
And so he just turns away. But last night, I got some squirting juices on him. I was like, oh, damn, he smells like some shit.
Oh, no. Were you using the magic wand or something?
No, my partner was just
juicing it up?
Juicing it out of me.
It was your juices or their juices?
We were having like...
all the above juices?
Well, we were having the after fight sex.
Angry sex? Makeup sex?
I don't know if we've really even made up quite yet, but I was like...
You're still arguing.
Yeah. But I was just like, dude, he struggles with that too. I don't know. Are you a person that can bounce back after a fight and like go straight into sex or a loving kind of conversation?
I can bounce back quickly after a fight if it's been worked through.
Okay.
I'm not one to just to put on a happy face and ignore.
Fake it. No,
I don't do that. But I definitely wouldn't be able to have sex if I didn't feel like there was a connection there. So I would need to work through it first. Feel like there's a connection, then I could have sex.
So I'm a person that can bounce back immediately, and I just want that kind of security again, feeling like we're okay. And he takes a lot of time. His processing time, even after we've kind of worked through the situation, he needs sometimes 24 hours to even feel back in line. And so it tends to be kind of detrimental to like our process because I need that like love and that feeling of connection right away. Almost like aftercare after a good bang session. I need the vulva hug. I made him hug my vulva last night too. I was like, you need to hug my vulva. The vulva hug, and he did it.
So you're saying after you get into an argument, you quickly need some sort of connection. Otherwise, what happens if you don't get it?
I feel abandoned.
What happens when you feel abandoned?
I feel alone.
What else happens when you feel alone?
I get sad.
You feel sad.
And I'm like, damn.
And what happens when you feel sad?
Then I cuddle my dog that's filled with squirt juices.
Well, and so I think that the totally get it because I also have anxious attachment stuff too, and so that will come up, the desire to fix as soon as possible, and I know that you and I both have that.
Yes.
And what I have learned from being in a relationship with my ex-partner now of 5.5 years who's highly avoidant, is that I don't always get to repair things as quickly as I want because I'm dealing with someone else's their speed, right, of how quickly they move through and are ready to connect. And so I would say that, because you said that I need this thing, my question be, do you need it from someone else, or is there a need that you have that you can give your system,
right,
and
on my own?
Yeah. So
that isn't a bottle of wine.
Isn't a bottle of wine. Yeah. It's more like, when you feel abandoned by by someone, what happens often for people who experience bouts of codependency, such as you and I, which we both know that I've done a lot of work around codependency, is that we were worried about being abandoned by the other person, so we end up abandoning ourselves to appease them.
Totally.
And someone gets abandoned no matter what.
Totally. Mm-hmm. And that's something that I am aware of.
Yeah.
It's just almost this reactive state that I get in where there's a reaction and I need that affirmation that I'm loved. And I guess...
Are you telling yourself that you're loved, though? I mean, you need it from someone else.
Kind of. I think that yesterday, specifically after the fight, I didn't need it. Mm-hmm. I just wanted that sort of
closeness,
connection. Yeah. That we had such an intense argument and over, something that has been brewing in our relationship for some time. And a lot of it stems from my own insecurities, which I'm aware of, which I voice, and they're still there.
Yeah.
And I'm working on them all the time. And I wrote this really long letter to him that I don't know if I'll ever give him, but sometimes it just helps me get my thoughts.
He doesn't read the podcast. Listen to the podcast.
Yeah, no, definitely not. And I don't know if that's something that is typical if people write letters and don't send them. I think
it's a great practice.
Healing.
I tell clients to do it often.
Oh, yeah.
I've had a 15-year-old client before who was upset with their dad and was like, write them a letter, and there's no pressure to send it to them. It's just a great practice to get out your emotions.
Well, because I tend to, and I'm not going to get too stuck on this because we have a lot of amazing stuff to get with, to give our listeners, to get with our listeners.
We're going to get with our listeners.
Get with it. So I don't want to spend too much time on this. However, I will say that when it comes to the letter writing, it helps me get my thoughts in order. And today I realized my wants and desires from him, which I always say he's not fulfilling and I'm asking for. And I don't say he's not fulfilling them. I say, I consistently tell you what I want and I feel like you're not listening because you're not showing up in these ways that I'm asking. And I realized that I haven't been really clear with him on deciphering my wants. I just expect him to move mountains and cross oceans and have all this passion and romance and drive, but then I want all this independence at the same time.
It's confusing message.
It's so confusing. Yeah. And when I was writing that, I was like, I'm confusing. And that really helped me kind of understand, I think, and get more in line with sometimes that my demands are, like Esther Perel says too, your partner can't be everything for you.
No, they can't. We can't expect them to be your everything and to meet all of your needs.
No, and that's what I was expecting. And so the letter did help me get real with myself.
Yeah.
And
I think that's smart. And to that practice. And then also when you're feeling here, are you open to just one little tip of advice?
Oh, for sure. That's why we're talking about this. And maybe a listener out there will also benefit from my trials and tribulations.
Well, and I would say also, when if you're identifying that there might be a part of you that has expectations for your partner to meet all of your needs, and that you have a need for them to show up in a certain way when otherwise you feel sad, abandoned, etc. Reach out to other people other than your partner, right?
Yes.
Like when you're because you were saying I need someone else to show up for me so I don't feel alone. Why is it that your partner is the one that always has to assist you in not feeling alone? I know you have a puppy now, so your puppy can do that, but you have friends and family and people that love you. This is something that I'm working on. I really try to self-soothe, which is something that hasn't necessarily been something that I've done consistently when I'm in a state of total what's the right word? Chaos. When my life feels so chaotic. So self-soothing is where I don't want to feel like I'm a victim. I don't want to feel like I am on my own, but I think self-soothing is something that's important. And last night, I think it would have turned into a bashing session if I would have reached out to someone. About him?
Yes.
I don't know, though. I will have to say sometimes you just got to bash, man.
I know,
I'm a fan of it sometimes where, and not like, and I would start a good bashing session with, hey, can you just hear me complain about some shit for a while? Like, I just want to complain. I'm having a really hard time. Do you have space for this? It doesn't mean I don't love this person. It doesn't mean I want to leave them. But fuck that motherfucker right now because this is what I'm going through. Can you hold the space? And I guess my question also from what I'm hearing too is like, is there like some pride in there and you don't want people to think that you're weak or
that my relationship's flawed? For sure.
Your relationship's flawed. Can I tell you?
Well, I know that my relationship is flawed.
Everyone is.
It's just that, with him, he gets very sensitive about, because our friend groups are so close, about people. And, ow, my dog just bit my vulva. He's a little
Your dog
crazy.
is on your partner's side, obviously.
Yeah. But I just know that if I do go into those moments of needing to vent, I need to be clear about this stays between the person that I'm venting to, and this is all information that I need to get because I'm angry right now, so I need to share. And I don't want you to judge my relationship, so please just keep an open heart.
And ask them that too.
And there's only certain people that
if you don't think that you can stay open, then I won't vent to you. Right?
Yes.
And there's no hard feelings.
Especially if they're going to form judgments about him or our relationship, because I don't need that. Sometimes you're right though. Hence the letter writing.
Yeah.
Sometimes you do need an ally, a venting ally.
Totally.
I just don't want to spout that much negativity on a regular basis, because you've heard people vent sometimes and they vent regularly and it becomes this negative sort of cloud that sometimes putting all that bad energy out into the environment affects you, and it can come back and manifest in different ways. So I don't know.
I get it. I think it's a important practice though not to bottle everything up, and the self-soothing thing comes with often the self-sufficient mentality that I can't rely on anyone else, so I have to do it all on my own, which is a protective mechanism of its own.
And that's how I am in general. Yeah. So
which is your work and a gift as well. So
enough about me and my fucked up life.
All right. Well, you know us. We are flawed. We're humans too. So, and we're flawed. There's a beauty in being a flawed human, because we all are, and there's beauty in owning it. You know, right? In acknowledging that.
Yeah.
We know that we're not perfect, and that's what our podcast is all about. If it's your first time listening to Shameless Sex, everyone, we don't just talk about ourselves all the time.
No, we don't.
And the premise of our podcast really is to talk about sex shamelessly, in a way where we embrace all of the challenges, all the vulnerability, all the flaws, all the things, as opposed to pretend like everything's all good and wearing a mask like we got it all together, because we certainly don't. And with all that said, guess what? We're teaching an event in California at Grover Beach. That's near San Luis Obispo, if you didn't know. April and I are teaching Oral Sex 101. This is Saturday, June 29th of 2019 at 7:30 p.m. at Diamond Adult World. Please come, learn with us, laugh with us, play with us. This is for all bodies, all folks. We're teaching how to please vulvas, how to please penises, how to please all kinds of bits. It's a playful, educational evening with yours truly. And guess what? The class is $25, but each attendee gets $20 gift card to Diamond Adult. So the class is $5, and then you get $20 to go shopping at Diamond Adult and buy your favorite sex toys. Again, Grover Beach in California, Saturday, June 29th. I also heard that Uberlube is going to be sponsoring, meaning they are paying for some tasty snacks, some champagne or wine or something. It's going to be a really fun event. So go check it out, diamondadult.com. We really hope to see you there. Come play with us.
And even if you think you're an expert, it's always good to have more information, more tools.
I mean, I'm still learning, and I think I'm pretty good at sucking the dick.
I'm pretty good too, but sometimes I need more information.
And maybe I'm really not good at it. I just think
no, you're pretty good.
Really? Have I sucked your dick before?
I can just tell.
How can you tell? Can you look at somebody
I've
that's
seen you
really
swallow
good?
that dildo and you like open up the back of your throat just the right way.
That's
where
just expert deep throating skills.
I have a bad gag reflex, so that can't happen.
She's also, what'd you say? You have like TMJ or something?
I have TMJ. My jaw clicks every time I eat a bagel. That's why I gave up gluten.
Oh my God, that's why. Also, if you're in Santa Cruz, this is actually not even a Shameless Sex event, but we want to do a shout out because we love the people putting this together. There's an event going on Friday, June 21st. It's actually for all Fridays, at maybe the third Friday of every month in Santa Cruz. It's going to have food trucks, face painting, family fun, live music, dance performances, kids activities, etc., etc. Downtown Santa Cruz. It is the north end of Pacific Avenue between Locust and Water Street. So go and join. I'll be down there this month. So if you want to come
Are you
see
going to
me.
get your face painted?
A big dick on the Oh my, just coming in towards my mouth.
Oh, that was good.
I should do it.
Yeah,
or like
you
make my
should.
face a giant yoni.
Wolverine.
Can you make me Wolverine,
Can
please?
you make me Wolverine?
Oh my gosh. Oh my God.
That was good. That was good.
Anyways, the people that heard that we were going to do a shout out for this event were like, damn it. Go check it out.
All the kids are getting butterflies. You're like getting Wolverine. Oh my God, that's so good.
All right, we have a sex question, everyone. This is a very simple sex question. Usually people send us a longer sex question, and this one was essentially 2 sentences, and one of them is it okay to have more than one friend with benefits?
I love this question.
I love it simple.
Of course, it's okay. Duh, of course.
It's very okay.
It's very okay.
I'm trying to wrap my head around where they were coming from and why they might not think it's okay. So I'm wondering if it has to do with shame, like that might make them slutty, or is it going to make it more complicated? Or
I just love that we get asked these kinds of questions. Like,
I think it's awesome. And remember when you had the tier system? If you listen to our early podcasts, like our first 3 or 4, when April was single, she had this tier system for the people that she would sleep with. And those are all friends with benefits.
They were all friends with benefits. And I was, to be clear with this listener, I was very communicative about my stance and not about all my tiers. I wasn't like, you're tier 1 or you're tier 2. I just said, hey, this is a non-exclusive situation. I'm having a lot of fun with you. And I hope you're okay that there are other people. And I do practice safe sex. That was one thing, though, that if you were going to be fluid bonded with multiple people, I believe safety should be mission,
or at least discuss with people.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that if you're going to go and have multiple friends with benefits, just being honest with them about it might make things a little bit safer in terms of the complex sex, not in terms of safer sex, but in terms of the complexities of, like, you know, if someone finds out that you're also have another friends with benefits that happen to be a part of the same or similar social circle, feelings might not be as easily hurt if you're more honest and transparent. So yeah, go have multiple friends with benefits. Friends with benefits can be a really awesome situation. I've had friends with benefits before, and it's been wonderful. And go listen to the episode we did. It may have been episode 5 with Reed Mahalko about casual sex.
Oh, yeah.
If you're concerned about how to keep it casual, go listen to that episode.
I was breaking all those rules when I had my tiers.
What does he say? Like no summer parties?
No breakfast the next morning, no couples trips. I was doing all those things.
I think he even says, like, to keep it simple, hang out with them only like once or twice a month at the most. And so it just depends on what your intentions are. But yeah, go have multiple friends with benefits. Be awesome and have fun.
I was remember when I got that text message from one of my tiers girlfriends when we were in Utah?
Oh, geez.
And you were like, you need to be. And I said, why don't you ask him these questions? I'm confused. We're just hooking up.
Yeah, she's trying to scare you away.
Yeah, she was.
Yeah.
Didn't work.
You scared her.
I scared her.
Yeah, you scared her. Wow. You didn't work with him anyways. Okay, so go get your friends with benefits. I'm totally into it. So before we dive into the bio, a couple things. Numero uno, if everyone out here that wants to learn more about sexual health, sexual rights, go check out the Woodhull Freedom Foundation. They're hosting their annual summit once again. I know a lot of sex educator friends that have been. It's the only national human rights organization working full-time on gender and sexual rights. So it's a 4-day event where educators, researchers, content creators, and activists come together to share information and advocacy tools to protect the fundamental human rights, to express our unique sexual and gender identities. You know that's important to us. So far, the podcast world hasn't been affected by all of these SESTA, FOSTA rule things, but
there's there's really cool stuff happening too. It's 4 days, obviously, like Amy said. There's workshop, there's different events, I think there's even like a smut slam.
Yeah, sexy evening events where they do a smut slam. It's a sexy storytelling competition. Ooh. It's a place to network and to learn. Oh, and Joan Price is going to be there. We're doing an episode with her soon.
She wrote a really great book.
Yes, and she's doing a talk there with Jessica Drake, who's an educator and porn star. And so there's all kinds of stuff. So go check it out. It's the 2019 Woodhull Sexual Freedom Summit. It's going to take place August 15th. That's 2019 through the 18th in Alexandria, Virginia. Get your tickets now at woodhullfoundation.org. That's WOODHULL foundation.org.
And Amy, you can't put a price on education.
You can't put a price on education.
It's the gift that keeps on giving, especially when it comes to social justice and, I don't know, sexual advocacy.
This episode is with River, who we've talked about, who I've been doing some vulva mapping sessions. I've known them for a number of years. And they are, I'll read the bio, but there's a sexological bodyworker, a somatic sex educator, etc. And a lot of the work that we do, we've talked about, they use castor oil. And I actually had someone message me on Instagram saying, is castor oil, you said it's a good lube. Why is it a good lube? I was like, oh shit.
Oh, no.
And I responded to them.
Okay.
So I want to let everyone know, if you've heard us talk about castor oil in these sessions we've been receiving in vulva mapping, castor oil is not a lubricant. It gets very, very sticky. It is
thick.
Yes, very thick. It's an oil that you use specifically for massage.
Remediation.
And remediation is good for healing and inflammation of the skin. So like for my vulva, I actually have some pain in certain spots. And so either Sexological Bodyworkers, or I also bought my own castor oil to start doing remediation, where I'm essentially massaging the areas that have pain. So not a lube. You want a really good lubricant, go with Uberlube. You've heard us talk about this. So Uberlube is for sex. It's for self-pleasure. Castor oil is for healing and remediation of your body. So Uberlube never gets sticky, long-lasting, has no flavor, no scent. It is in a beautiful bottle. It's good for all kinds of sex. There's like 500 doctors on board in the U.S. alone that are recommending it because it also has vitamin E in it, which helps moisturize the skin.
It's a silicone-based lube, so it really never does get sticky. It lasts as long as you want it to. It's amazing lube.
It's some of the best.
And I've tested a lot of lubes.
We know our lubes. But again, castor oil, not a lube. Uberlube, phenomenal lube for all kinds of sex. Go to uberlube.com. And if you use coupon code shamelesssex in all caps, you get 10% off and free shipping. Go check that out. And if you have inflammation, go check out castor oil, which I don't really know. Google it and get organic castor oil. That's what they say. And then lastly, we got our good old OMG Yes. So OMG Yes, my mom just accessed the the second season.
The second season. What did she think?
She's still in review, but she's amazed so far.
So far, I've watched, I think maybe 5 to 10 of them.
Oh, really?
I think
of season 2?
Of season 2.
Good job.
I can't remember because it's been over. It's always open. The tab's always open on my computer. And sometimes when I'm just needing a break from work, I'll just check out some new tactics.
I'm going to learn some things.
It's so cool.
Yeah.
I love it.
So OMGS is an online program that is research-based. It has videos and lots of information on all kinds of pleasure. Season 1 is all about external vulva pleasure. Season 2 is about internal pleasure. And they are tasteful videos that show you all these different techniques on which you can try on your own body or on another body. So if you're someone that wants to enhance your orgasmic experience or potential or try new things, great option. If you're someone that wants to learn how to touch another body, also a great option for you. We are huge fans. If you go to omgs.com/shameless, you get $5 off. So go check it out. Are you ready for a bio?
Yeah, I'm curious to learn about River.
April was not there for this recording, but April has experienced what we talk about on this podcast. Apparently, we've been talking a lot about all of this vulva mapping and sexological body work, and we are not sponsored by them in any way. We just believe in it. Yeah, whoa. We totally. Whoa. What do you say when you're a kid? Like,
Jinx.
You owe me a Coke.
Jinx. Jinx. Double Jinx. I never drank Coke. I drank Mountain Dew.
You owe me a Dew.
Ew.
It's gross. Okay. We're not sponsored by Mountain Dew either.
Yellow Fab.
Gross. Okay, so River is an SSEA Certified Somatic Sex Educator, IASHS Certified Sexological Bodyworker, and attention and trauma release exercise practitioner with a private practice in San Francisco Bay Area. Ohlone Territory. Their work is dedicated to supporting the reintegration of the erotic body after trauma with scar tissue remediation, body-centered practices, and the discharging of stuck emotions and tension held in the tissues of the body. River creates a non-judgmental and safe space for queer, trans, non-binary folks and women to explore their boundaries, desires, and pleasure at their own pace. River is also the creator of the Erotic Art Project, an online and in-person community project that celebrates the creative and erotic body of queer, trans, and non-binary artists and activists. They believe that celebrating our bodies and desires give us the freedom to lovingly and joyfully meander through the glorious depths of our erotic and creative worlds. Visit the Erotic Arts Project at theeroticartsproject.life. And to learn more about River's offerings, visit riverdrosera.life. That's RIVERDROSERA.life. Shall we dive in? Let's do it. All right, everyone, we are diving into the podcast. I like to set the scene when I am recording, as you know, if you've listened before. I am in, not Berkeley, I'm in Albany. I am here for my Hakomi training. It's a holistic psychotherapy training that I am in year 2 of. I come up here one weekend a month. And I'm here with a group of other folks from Santa Cruz, all learning about how to better serve our clients. And we're doing a housing swap where we're in someone's house and they're in our house at home. and I am here with River Drosera. I said your last name right?
You
correct?
did.
You did it.
Yes.
River,
Thank
who lives up here in the Bay and works in the Bay with folks as a sexological bodyworker, a sex coach. You do TR, you use trauma.
Tension and trauma release
exercises.
exercises.
Okay.
Yep.
Yes. And we obviously read all about this in the bio. But this is the perfect opportunity. I know once again, April was like, you're recording a lot of episodes without me. And she wasn't upset about it. But I was like, well, I travel and I know people, places. And so I go and I record with them. So as I like to do, shout out to April. We love you.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you've met April yet.
I don't think I have.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Boo.
Well, April will listen and April shall learn. So, but this was just perfect. And this is also perfect. And I want to start with this piece because on previous episode, I have already, actually 2 probably by now, I have talked about doing sessions with you. Mm-hmm. I've been coming up here and doing sexological bodywork sessions with you where you're my sexological bodyworker. Mm-hmm. Specifically, as if people who have been listening for a long time, they know that I have been on this journey to kind of reclaim my sexuality, my drive, my desire, my arousal, my connection to my body has just been really turned down and turned off. And so I've been coming up here working with you, and I wanted to start with sharing more about that. But I guess my first question, can you just tell our listeners, how did you get to be where you are today? Like, why did you choose to be a sexological bodyworker and do the work that you do?
I love these stories.
Me too.
So yes. I actually lived in an all queer household in Santa Cruz, and that's where I met Ariadne Loya, who was she used to teach sexological bodywork. And so we hit it off. We became good friends, and she was like, "You have to do this. Like, you're so great for it. Please, let's see if we can get you in." And I was like, "I don't know. I'm not sure about this." I even left New York for about a year, and then I came back, and I was like, "All right, let's do this." And then that was it. And so after that, I was on the teaching team for 2 years as a teaching assistant, and then I was for 2 years the one of the core facilitators. And so it just took off.
Yeah. Surprise!
Yeah, your life has changed.
Yeah. Isn't it that's just such an interesting thing for that to take off? All of a sudden you go from wherever you were before to okay, I now touch people's bodies and their genitals and help them, and this is not all people, but some people, and help them work through shame and trauma in places they might be turned off or turned down, and help them to connect deeper with their bodies or whatever it is they're coming for. Mm-hmm. It's quite a twist. Does your whole family know what you do?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, good.
Yeah. And so, it kind of just seemed like a natural thing to get involved in it. Yeah. So when I was grew up and, when I went to college, I was an art student and I was doing so much work around sexuality and making all kinds of, like, I was looking at one of my old notebooks and I was like, oh my God, I write about the same stuff. Like, I have the same questions.
Not much has changed. Maybe you have a little more knowledge.
A lot more.
Yeah.
So yeah, it seemed like a just natural thing to kind of go into it. But.
And before I even came in, and I guess I did do a sexological bodywork session with you years ago. I think you were fresh out of the training, and I had just done Barbara Corellis's Urban Tantra training. So that was I don't even know, was that 7 years ago or something? A long time ago.
That was a while ago, probably 5 years ago.
Yeah, maybe 5. Okay.
Yeah.
But then we went on to teach together.
We did.
And we taught with another woman. We taught some sexual empowerment weekends for female identified folks, and that was, I think, kind of the last time that I really worked with you. So it's fun. It's fun and different and interesting, and also feels so safe being on this other end with you, of me being on your massage table. And I guess, so I wanted to share with people a little bit about what that looks like. I talked about it on past podcasts. But what River is doing with me is, you never touched me without without consent. Even when your hand changes to a new place, you are getting consent to touch a new place.
Yes.
And not all of it. And so I'm deciding what my body wants. And you're essentially, it seems like, really inviting me to find way to be in my body and follow the thread of what is here now. And so what sensation, what emotion, what feeling, while creating safety in that. And through that, I saw that by following all these very small, subtle threads, that it went to these places that I've been completely missing. Of like, oh my God, there is arousal in here, or there is sensation here. And maybe it's not like a 10, not an mind-blowing orgasm, muscles contracting, but there are these things that have probably been here, but I've been so stuck in the what's not, or in the looking of something really big, that I've completely blocked myself to the point where and I think there's other reasons why I feel kind of numbed out too, but anyways, is this common for what you see with people, that they come in, and also the feeling I left was like, I'm not broken. Do you see this often when you're working with folks?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, what separates our work from, like, let's say massage therapy, is when you go in to receive a massage, you lay down on a table and something is being done to you.
Yes.
That's fine. It's totally great.
Yeah.
But when you go see a sexological bodyworker, somatic sex educator, we do a ton of consent work and boundary work prior to. And so really, like, when people are like, I really want a huge, orgasm, or I want to do vulva mapping, we really take our time. And so part of that is doing, we call it the Bossy Massage. Yes. And so you're telling me how you want to be touched. And so I'm not making any assumptions. I don't know how you like to be touched. Only you do, more than anyone. And so I only do what you ask, nothing more, nothing less. We practice that. And so then that you are essentially in power. And so that you get to ask for the touch that you want, and that you're getting it. And you get to take our time. And so we can do things like holding and, like, really slow down like that. Like, I'm obsessed with slowing down.
Yes.
It's the best.
It's so, and I think a lot of people often aren't experiencing it, even with their own self-pleasure, or when the touch from other people is often isn't what is practiced.
Yep. And it's so fast. And, we have a desire for something. I want to feel, more in my body. I want to feel whatever. And we want it now. But, like, if you really want that, the slow part is where it's going to happen. And so, like, really taking your time.
Yeah. I wonder, I'm curious, do you often have people that come there and they experience you respecting their bodies, essentially saying, I'm only going to move at your pace. And in fact, we're going to move really slow. And I would imagine you have a number of people who probably break down in a way of, like, probably tears and from just, oh my God, I've been pushing myself beyond my limits, maybe my whole life or maybe for years. And here's what it feels like to finally have someone not only honor and respect my body, but me to do it for me. It's powerful.
Yeah, it's huge for people. So definitely a lot comes up around it. And people do often have emotional reactions, because maybe for the first time they have someone who is really asking for what they want. And then that can even be really scary of like, I've never been asked that. I don't know what I want.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's find out. You know, let's take our time.
Yeah. And what you'll say too is if you don't know, if I didn't know what I want, you'll just be present, right?
Yeah.
I'll just
wait.
I don't have to make up something. And I saw the distinction in my being of like, what came up for me in there was that this realization that, here's that thought of I need to be doing something. You know, that kept popping up for me. But because it was a pre-negotiation situation where I was not going to be giving to you or touching you, I was able to work with it. But I saw how often that story pops up there and gets in the way. And it just was so much was available when I didn't need to do, when there was no rush for me to know what to do. When I knew that there was permission to just slow down and listen, and I just all these little subtle things, and I was blown away. And it's pretty hard to blow me away these days, considering what I do and all the things I talk about. But I was just so not only empowered and left there, feeling so alive. And honestly, I do. My listeners who know that I just ended my 5.5-year relationship, I think that the empowerment I actually got to finally choose me, we had so many rounds of us getting stuck in these patterns, and I finally was like, I need to stop doing this by choosing me. Honestly, the insight came after driving away from your session, and I don't think it came from you because the touch you were doing at one point when we finally got to the genitals, I remember you holding kind of the bottom part. What is it called? The fourchette. It was the base of my vaginal opening. You didn't have a finger inside though. It was still external, and so it was just kind of on like the bottom part of the vulva. And your finger was just staying there. And through that, I remember seeing all these, like your finger there, and I could feel my G-spot, like filling with fluid, and just like, oh my god, my pussy's pulsating. I haven't felt that in forever. And so it's not that insight came about what I needed to do there, but I also had some tears in there that was released when you were touching around my breasts that I had requested for you to do, and it was on the drive home. So I guess I'm saying that there's releases in there happening that I didn't have a story of what I was releasing. I didn't really know, but it felt like it cleared out something that I didn't need to have a story for then. You know, would be in my head, why is this? What am I clearing out? What am I crying about now? I didn't know. I was just doing it and feeling it. But it cleared out something so that when on my way home, I could come into clarity. And that was super powerful. So I'm just like, I'm so excited to like have more sessions to see like what else happens. Unfolding. Yeah. It's super exciting.
I mean, all that we did, I mean, that was you. It was what you wanted. And so you had an opportunity to really sit with your body and to ask, and the wisdom is already there. Yeah. It's gonna, if we just pause and listen, it's gonna say something.
Yeah, I highly recommend this to everyone. So we would talk about somatic sex education. Sometimes some people don't really know what somatic means.
Okay.
So can you describe a little bit more of what that is to our listeners? They've heard it before, but they still might not fully understand what's the difference between that and just like sex education.
Yeah. So somatics, the word soma is a Greek word, and it means the body, but it's not separate from your mind. It's not like, oh, they're two different things, or the body is like an object. It's your experience in your body. So that's the root meaning of that. So we're talking about everything. So this includes your sexuality. And so somatics is a practice of getting into your body through various exercises, getting in touch with your sensations, your felt sense, and seeing what it is that you really find pleasurable and what you like. But, so there are somatic fields that don't deal too much with sexuality. And so this is kind of where our field is able to come in. And so we're trauma informed. Some of us have done a lot of work on, or taken extra trainings with trauma. And so, really the basis for transformation and change is always going to be in the body. So we don't
not in the mind.
We don't deal with stories, although, people might want to share them, but we're not therapists. So we don't really like dissect that in any way. And so what you were describing happens often where people are like, there was no story. There was nothing that was attached to it. It was just my body was doing something.
Something was moving, something was shifting. I was feeling,
Yeah. And so, that, like, we get a chance to slow down. We get a chance for the body to really be able to talk about how it feels in in its sexual realm also. And pleasure, and like, or reorienting to pleasure. And doing various exercises to get in your body, and also like consent and boundaries, these things that we do, it's we can read about them all that we want, but when we put them into practice, when using our bodies, or like, that's when it lands with people. They're like, oh, I get it now. Like, there's so many more like aha moments. You could talk about trauma, we could talk and learn about it, but when you really are getting in your body and being able to experience it, these are like the moments where change happens.
When I on this podcast, I talk about sex all the time. I'm just like, I'm working on my things again, but I know all the things. I know that if I have a self-pleasure practice, and that if I breathe and I am present with my touch and my brain knows all these things, and that I can feel more arousal, more drive, more aliveness in my body. But my body has a block because of some shit that went down, and where I literally felt myself years ago, and literally felt myself turn down and turn off. And so I understand this. My brain is on board. My body isn't yet. In fact, my body needs... They need to work together, obviously, because my brain needs to get on board and to make these choices to take this route and this path. But until my body really feels it, it is not... It's not in me yet. I don't trust it. I have an idea of it. So I really believe, like, the body really is the way. And yet we live in a society that is like so conditioned to run away from the body and to not feel from it, because feeling can really hurt.
Yeah.
It can be scary.
It can be uncomfortable. And so really, like, what I love doing is, like, why slowness works is that you get to titrate. And so you get to kind of come up to your body, start saying hello. If it starts to get overwhelming, we pause and wait. So we don't, like, keep overwhelming the body. We can take our time and sort of, what's this? So that because when we do come into our bodies, we experience things, all of a sudden, grief around, like, what's happening to the world and all these things. Like, I can feel it, but you also feel more connected to humans. You feel more connected to the earth. And so there's a wide range of emotions that can come up, but what we're teaching is tools to be able to support that as it's happening, so that you don't feel overwhelmed and shut down again.
Yeah, and you're speaking to that aliveness that comes, and part of being alive is discomfort, is sadness, is pain, is anger, is all of those things. And where I think we're conditioned to run away from aliveness, because aliveness can mean really hard stuff.
Yeah.
And when it comes to sexuality, I mean, that, in my belief, is it runs at the core of all of us, and it's the easiest one to hurt and to target and to shut down. And so and there's so many other things that are too, but I really admire the work that you're doing. Can you explain to our listeners a little bit, because you're guiding people in your work. What are some of the tools that you teach people that they can do to get in their own bodies when they go home? Right, because you're helping them in your office, but you're part of it so that they can go home and do it on their own, right?
Yeah, so it really depends, because nobody's body is the same. So nobody's trauma is the same. It depends on so much. And so, what kind of practices people want to choose to do. And that's part of it, is like, what's choice? What's the pleasurable thing here? Like, what's the thing that gives you resistance? What happens if you practice this or this? But, typically, just starting out with doing something like a body scan and having that, like, see what that happens over a week. And you get to check in with me about it. Like, resistances that come up, or I noticed I don't really feel my knee or my leg or something, but that is the first thing, because you're just orienting yourself to your body. You're saying hello after maybe a time that you've never done that before.
And I just as you say that, I loved when I was in your office that one of the first things we did was the tapping of the body.
Yes.
And you said, don't forget to tap your genitals and your butthole.
Yeah.
And I was like, that is awesome. No one has ever told me to include my butthole in any sort of body scan, or this is a tapping over the clothes to connect everything and wake it up. But I love that. I was like, oh yeah, don't forget these parts, including the internal
Yeah.
part that I can still touch, but I just ignore every time I do a body scan.
Right. So you don't think about that. You're like, oh, I just skip right over the pelvis and like go right on up and check in what's going on in my belly. But like, you know, what if you really slow down and you just sort of look, you know, scan in your brain, like, what is happening in my genitals? Do I feel sensation there? Do I feel nothing? What's going on? You know, or shame or I don't know, you know, but you don't have to do it with, you get to suspend your judgments and just sort of notice. So like really somatics is like noticing what is happening in your body.
And inviting in, and then all the feelings and emotions that come with it.
Yeah, and being able to track what's happening, getting in touch with sensations. So emotions can come up, but like what we're kind of diving a little bit deeper. So getting in touch with the body means we're talking about sensations. So like earlier, I felt really anxious. Like, you know,
I'm going on the podcast.
Oh God, I'm probably going to forget everything I ever know. But like, you know, so to describe that would be my chest. It's in my chest. So location. I'm feeling up like pitter patter, tightness. And so we start to use these kind of descriptive words to develop that language versus just saying, I'm anxious. So it's like, how do you know what is happening? You know, and you just start to develop a language and you can track, I went to the store and this thing made me anxious because I felt here, I felt this, or I have a pain here, or I don't have any feeling here.
Yeah.
So,
and the thing that applies to sex in so many different ways. I mean, one, if I'm feeling all these things, like I'm feeling anger to, you know, at my partner, or I'm feeling anxious about this thing, and then I go and try to have sex right after, of course, it's going to affect sex because there's this thing that I'm maybe not tending to, this part of me. But also when we refine the skill in tending to our body and our emotions and, you know, the sensations in life outside of sex. This is why we often say, if you want to get more connected to your body or have more connected sex, start a meditation practice. And it doesn't have to be sexual, but you start these things like you're talking about, a body scan, and having these practices where it becomes more default for you to connect to your body in that way, then it will carry over in sex. And what you're saying is include your butthole in your genitals.
Don't forget.
Don't forget that.
They're a part of your body.
Yeah, I like that one that we did. So I think we started the toes tapping, and you tap with your fingers every part of your body, making your way all the way up.
Yeah.
Don't forget your genitals, went all the way to the top of the head. Did we go back down again? Or
I don't know. We didn't.
Okay.
So that's something. Yeah. So if you're at home and you're like, how can I start doing this? That exercise is actually from Peter Levine, and so I love it. So Peter Levine has this book called Healing Trauma, and what I love about it, it's like really a easy, simple book. Like, and that it is well written for people who are like just getting started with this. Like, I totally recommend that. And in the back is a CD of exercises. So part of that, and he does it a little bit differently. So, but I can just sort of describe it. So this one, so this is one of my favorite exercises. So you just can start at your toes, and you just tap the ends of your fingers on your toes, and you can get really detailed with it. So like you can really go over your toes little by little.
the crevices, though, you had me do that inside the toes. Yes, I remember
Don't
that.
forget.
I was like, I would never think to do that. Touch the invitation to touch even the parts that you normally wouldn't touch.
Yeah. And you can say something if you want. You can say like, "This is my toe. This is my big toe." You know. Hi, hello,
hi, toe.
Welcome back. You know, welcome to my body. Here we go. So those are some of the things you could do that over your whole body. So you can really take your time with them. You can spend like 20 minutes doing this and really seeing, and notice too. Like you can tap your feet, like if you start there, and then stop tapping and notice the sensation. Like what is going on there? Is it feeling a little tingly? Like feeling much at all? So you can really take your time with this. And so, that's a part of what I do with people in person right away. And then I actually just today recorded a body scan meditation that'll have up on my website for people to be able to just download on their phone so they can just listen to it.
So helpful for people who are like, I don't know how to guide myself in this.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
That's how I learned. I loved it. I have meditations that I listen to from other people. And so I want to make my own that includes our genitals and,
Don't leave the genitals out. This is one of the complaints that I've heard in the yoga world is that yoga is about embracing the whole body except for sexuality.
Yeah.
Like, let's not talk about that one thing.
We call it the genital hole.
Yeah.
It's the it's the thing we don't address. So, we're just not going to talk about it. We're going to completely ignore it, even though it's a huge part of our lives and has, all the anatomy is connected. It's not like the separate functioning its own little world down there. It's connected to all parts of ourselves. So.
Yes. Yeah, totally. And there's nerve endings that connect. The vagus nerve, everyone connects to my pelvic floor, runs through you.
Exactly.
What about, so part of your role that you do is masturbation or pleasure coaching. First of all, does the word masturbation, I heard there was like some old definition that meant to soil one's hand. Who told us that? It was who we used to teach with. She said that. When we were teaching, she said she doesn't like the word masturbation because she heard that it means to soil one's hand, which I think is during the whole Kellogg era, when they were literally telling
naughty.
Yes, and they were like sewing on boys' penises like barbed wired so that if they touched themselves and got erect, that it would hurt them. Barbaric era. But do you use the term masturbation, and what is masturbation coaching all about?
I actually use pleasure coaching.
Okay, pleasure coaching.
Because when I want to open it up. I want to open up the word pleasure. Mm-hmm. So especially with folks who are not there yet, who aren't ready to touch their bodies or just kind of like, I don't know, not quite there. Pleasure can be anything from taking a walk, and breathing and just enjoying, noticing your sensations, the cool air, things like that. Really good food. And so, anything that you find pleasure in. And so pleasure, like following it, where does it go? What feels most pleasurable? And so even just doing that, I notice when I practice it, when I'm practicing, that even anything with work related, this way's more pleasurable. Mm-hmm. I'm going to go that way. And then I'm finding more enjoyment of life. So starting it out like that. And, but then also, involving self-pleasure into it. And having that as a practice, your own time. Mm-hmm. This is so with me, yes, we get to practice slowing down, doing all these things so that you can learn, but somatics really, the transformation is through practice. Mm-hmm. So doing an at-home thing, a time that you get to set aside for just yourself. Mm-hmm. And you put on whatever music you find pleasurable. If you want to have a fluffy pillow, whatever, you just, pleasurable. And then you can just, if you want, breathe and just be there and hold your, genitals if you want, or you can, all kinds of things. But what it's doing is it's not just masturbation, go right for the genitals and we're done.
And have orgasm.
Mm-hmm. And I like that kind of masturbation personally too. So I'm not shaming that in any way. But this is slowing down. Yeah. This is an opportunity to really be I'm going to follow pleasure. Mm-hmm. What does that mean? Maybe I just need to rest, or maybe I do feel turn on a little bit of porn, getting a little excited, and then coming back to my body. But we're touching our entire body, so it's not just so genital focused. So we teach breath work, we teach slowing down, we teach and you can get aroused and then touch your whole body, and so you're integrating your whole body, and it's not this separate thing. Mm-hmm. Just the genitals only. And
we just did, by the time this airs, May is over. So we did our Masturbation May, also known as Self-Pleasure 30-Day Challenge on Instagram for Shameless Sex. And so many people couldn't wrap their head around, because what we asked, the intention of it was to help people to connect to their bodies in a deeper way, because that's the number one request we get from people. We're I'm not connected to my body. I don't know how to get connected. And so we say, you got to create the practices. So the request that we made was using no porn or vibrators, and they're welcome to use it other times. And of course, if they have to use it, we don't want to exclude folks with disabilities. But the intention of that just for 10 minutes a day, and that's it. and 7 minutes a day for 30 days just to see what happens, what you learn, what comes up. People couldn't wrap their heads around it. Some people were upset that we asked not to use vibrators because they're so set on it meaning it has to lead to orgasm. The point of this, and I think what you're talking about, is to check in with yourself and follow the thread and listen. And if orgasm becomes a part of that, awesome, that's a bonus. But to not really have goals, because goals take you out of what is in the present moment, right? Is that kind of what you're instructing people in a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, and that's why I like to call it pleasure. Yeah, because there doesn't have to be orgasm to find pleasure. I mean, our entire body is a pleasure organ. Yeah. And so just spending time with that's your practice. And you don't have to orgasm if you don't want to. Yeah. But yeah, definitely, like when we become goal oriented, it becomes harder for us to really stay embodied.
We're looking for the thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And trying so hard. And your body is like, no, like I can't tell how many times I've like, put a vibrator on my clit and it's like, I'm just like, I am gonna get there. Yeah.
And my body is like, get there, but
it sucks,
Yeah, you can still get there, but I think when I do that, I get there and I can feel amazing for a little bit, but I don't feel this deep connection to my body.
Yeah.
So I'm not shaming. I love me some vibrators, everyone.
Yes,
and so I'm not shaming that or shaming watching porn at all. It's just that there are some ways that we can slow down and really listen and connect and see what's there. And through that, and so here's the other thing. I'm aware of this, not having goal-oriented sex and self-pleasure. So I've been doing that, but so maybe I haven't been set on orgasm, but I've still been set on big pleasure. I've still been set on feeling these big things that are euphoric or throbbing in my pussy. You have this thing that I'm looking for. And when I was in session with you, I noticed that even just looking for that, even though it's not even goal oriented towards orgasm, it still is goal oriented towards big pleasure. And so I'm missing out on all the subtle things. And I was able to feel it in your office. I was like, oh, holy shit, I've been missing out all of this. Like right now, because I'm following the thread and I've been doing it in this slow way for this long, my pussy is pulsating. It is throbbing. My G-spot does feel like it's about to ejaculate all over the place. All these things I thought I haven't been able to feel in so long are available because I've been looking for the bigger thing. And there's other reasons why, but I've got a lot of stuff. So.
Yeah, the big thing can be in just slowing down and holding, and then you really like, there's times where I just hold my hand over my pussy and just, that's it. And you can pay attention what's happening down there. Ooh, this is happening. Oh, that's moving over there because it's constantly changing, but you do get a moment, for the body to just let you know.
And this applies to all bits, everyone. You can literally do all of these practices that River's talking about in sexological bodywork applies to all folks, all bodies, to penises, to testicles, to vulvas, to other bits in between, to anuses, all the things. So, okay, what is tension and trauma release? I know there's specific exercises, but what are they and how can they help people?
Yeah, okay. So tension and trauma release exercises, I'll just shorten it to TRE, was developed by Dr. David Barcelli, who had been working and living in war zones. And so had just noticed like these common threads among humans and how they react, like their actual body reacts. And so we tend to like crouch up and sort of, hold our major organs, make sure that they don't get hurt. And so, but then there's all this like stress and these stress hormones that get activated. What happens afterwards? How do we release this? How do we finish this? And so also at the same time, there's all this developments around trauma and people starting to realize like, oh, wow, it lives in the body.
The body holds it. The body keeps the score.
The body keeps the score.
Everyone,
exactly.
It really does. It remembers.
It's a very good book. And so TRE is a self-help tool. So people usually come in for probably about 3 sessions or so, depending. I just teach TRE sometimes and that's it. And then the people are done. They don't want to do somatic sex education. But I often really like to start with this because it gives the people a tool. So it's 7 super simple, modifiable exercises that get the shaking mechanism that is naturally in our bodies to start going. And so that shaking. So when people are overwhelmed, all these stress hormones make us either go into fight or flight. And so if we don't finish the trauma response, then we end up like feeling hypervigilant. We have anxiety, we have pain, we have tension. And the shaking is a way to complete a response if needed, or just let go of stress. And so intention that's held in the body from day-to-day things. But it is a natural thing, and we have completely suppressed it.
And I think animals do this.
Animals do
when
this.
They get into you see them. They get into some whole little tiff or dog fight or something, and you see them go and shake it off.
Yep. Yeah. And so all land mammals do this, including us. So this is a very natural thing, and you can watch any Discovery Channel thing, and you watch them. They're twitching all the time. So they just do it, but it's vulnerable, to be seen doing that, and people start to think, oh, if I'm shaking, I might scare other people, or, so they
a certain way to be,
shut it down. And that shutting down, you're not giving your body a chance to like complete and release what it needs to do. So these exercises get people, to develop a relationship with that feels comfortable. And so I like to start out there. So we do these exercises that like fatigue our muscles so that they start to shake. Like you've ever been to the gym and you're like pumping iron your muscle. Yeah, like that's it. And so
is it a workout too?
It's not a workout. No, you won't be sweating.
Like I don't need to go to the gym that same day.
But and then we have people lie on the floor on a yoga mat with their feet on the floor and their knees up. And so that's kind of the like position. And there's other ways to do it if people need to have their body in a different position. And they get to shake for about 12, 15 minutes or so. But in that, we also teach how to slow it down. So we don't have them doing shaking for 12 minutes and that's it. We have them slow down at least twice. And so at first, people are kind of like, well, I just want to keep going. And it's like, well, we're going to try to just slow it down a little bit, because what you're teaching your body to do is to titrate. And so, and that slowing down, that kind of self-regulation is huge for people. Like for me too, as like somebody who's chronic anxiety, being out there in the world, like that was a huge thing, where it's like, I can like shake for a little bit and I can slow it down. And so there's a bunch of tools that also really helps people develop somatic awareness very quickly. And so I just love to teach it as like the first thing. And then once you get the hang of it, you can just do it on your own. And then as we're doing work together, as you're getting involved, into your body, and you're talking about your sexuality or difficult things perhaps, or joyful things, and you want to shake, you won't be afraid of it, and you'll let it happen. Because you'll have a relationship to that. So
this is a useful tool for pretty much everyone who. Yes. But you have people that come with specific trauma, then they're coming for you to help them work through the trauma and want to learn this tool for that, or you think it just applies to everyone for any time that they're feeling that?
I wish everyone knew this, because I think even if you don't have a significant memory of something, most of us have been traumatized in some way. And so trauma is the overwhelming of our nervous system and our coping mechanisms. And so at some point, maybe when you were younger, or who knows, and it doesn't have to be sexual trauma. It could be, falling off a bike or something that kind of rattles our system a little bit. And even just with stress, like, oh gosh, work every day and I'm so stressed out, but I can go home and I can shake and release some of this tension. And what people really like about it is that there's not a story that's attached to it usually. So people do have emotions that come up, but it's just the body. It's like a massage from the inside out, and the body just gets to do it for a bit. And so it's like a pressure valve, is what they like say, just releasing the pressure a little bit. So I think everybody can use it.
Yeah. I've had some experiences talk about this a little bit. I don't talk about it too much on the podcast, but I have drank ayahuasca a number of times, and in it, I've had these experiences where my body just shakes itself. I'm not meaning for it to do that, but under the medicine, it's shaking for like a couple hours. It feels so good. I just let it do it, and my legs, sometimes they're going crazy too, but my body's like burn, and I can feel it's shaking something out. Like it's shaking, it's doing what it wants to do, and I'm going to let it do its thing. And it feels incredible to give myself that permission. And then there is some sort of release happening in there. So I hear that you're teaching people and they don't need the medicine to do that. That literally people can have their own tools to do it on their own.
Yeah, and it's amazing. And to be able to practice it at home and learn about it. So like it is something that you can take with you. And, you know, like there's been moments where I've just been in my car shaken and like getting, you know, I was scared or something, but I, you know, something happened and I was, you know, had to process it. But I was like, okay, this is what I need to do. I don't fear it. I don't feel weird. This feels totally natural and I'm okay with it. And so
I'm so fascinated. I wonder if it'd be helpful, just this amount, I'm trying to make this all about me, but I have a thing about night that I really want to work on. Cause when I was a kid, I lived in a big 7-bedroom Victorian house with my parents, and I was scared every night. That's why I wanted a little brother or little sister so that I didn't have to be alone. I always wanted friends to spend the night. Nothing bad actually happened to me at night, except that I was scared and wasn't, I didn't feel taken care of in my fear. My mom is one of the best parents I can ask for, and she kind of had an idea that I needed to be strong. I needed to learn how to self-soothe a little bit. So I could go in their room and say I was scared, but I wasn't allowed to like sleep in their bed or any of that. And so I lived pretty much every night that I can remember until I was like 12 or 13, really scared. So I have this fear of night, and that happens. And so I really want to work on that. I'm wondering if I'm like in the dark outside and I feel that fear, if I just like started shaking, if it would invite my body to move through, like would it apply to something like that?
Try it out.
Yeah. Well, I gotta learn how to do it first. So I'll come in your office and you can teach me. Yeah.
And like another thing that I love about it, and that I noticed in my own, practice with it, is because a lot of people start to shake in their legs. That's where people generally start when they're learning about it, and their pelvis. And so, I've had people that I've coached through it, we could talk about sexuality, who are like, oh, I'm using this as a part of my pleasure practice and, releasing tension in my pelvis. But there is like points where I felt turned on, and this didn't just happen to me, but like at 1 week, like my right pussy lip on the outer lip pulsated for like a week. And I was like, okay, you do you. Whatever
Go
you
ahead,
want.
rock yourself. Yeah, do whatever you want.
But I was like, oh, this is happening.
This is kind of fun walking around.
I don't know why. Yeah.
Everywhere you go, there's my pussy just pulsating.
Yeah, so people can bring it in because it is, working a lot in our pelvis. And yeah.
What about scar tissue remediation? I know that you do that in your work, and Dolly does that as well. From what I'm aware of, and that it's really powerful. And this is specifically now we're talking again to touching the genitals, is where you're not usually doing this kind of work.
I mean, not just genitals. Okay. And so, unfortunately, there really isn't a lot of aftercare for people who have had like surgery and how to deal with scars. Yeah. Abdominal surgeries that really like. So how scar tissue forms is the fibroblasts send out a bunch of collagen to repair a wound, and so when that happens, it's sporadic, and so it just kind of lays down a bunch of collagen really quick, and then it tightens, and so our skin, and it can adhere to other parts of the muscles, and then you start to get stiffness. Like if you ever had a scar, you could tell it can be really tight, and so our work is touching that and being able to loosen up and have it be more slidey and glidey, so that it hopefully it's not causing too much stress in other parts or tugging on your body in a way that affects your whole posture. And so, like there's people who have had scars in their abdomen, and you can see the scar on the top of the skin, but if you trace it with your hands, the scar travels in the body. And sometimes reaching their pelvis, all the way to their genitals. Yeah. And so typically, yes, I'm doing work that is either genital related or like folks who have just given birth, who are wondering why they're feeling pain, and and gender affirming surgeries. Scars are a part of the human experience. Everyone has them, even if you don't have a visible one. So adhesion is another term for a scar too. And so this is like anywhere in the body where the muscle, it's not sliding. And so it's stuck and they start to adhere to each other and they can grow and kind of travel throughout the body. So falling down, that can create scar tissue in the body. So we're just kind of walking scar tissue.
Yeah, we are. Our whole bodies are.
But, this is why touch is so important. Receiving any massage, really, which can help to break that up, or relax the body a little bit, myofascial release techniques.
Bring more blood flow there.
Yeah. And so, in infections, any inflammatory things can cause scar tissue too. So people who've had chronic infections, like UTIs can cause scar tissue. And so...
Oh, like internally?
Yes. And so what makes our work as somatic sex educators and sexological bodyworkers unique is that we can work intervaginally and anally around scar tissue so that people perhaps have more sensation. It can loosen up a little bit, become more slidey-glidey, prevent pain. And also help to reintegrate the body around how the scar came about.
So it's the body kind of creates a new story around it, how it relates to the scar through the healing.
Yeah, or like if it was a traumatic experience. So those emotions can sometimes feel held in our scars. Yeah. So, if we're touching them, it can mean a lot for people.
So you're touching them, but then you can teach people touch so they can go do it home too.
Yes.
Yeah. So you would do the touch and then say, here, so what would that look like for them to touch their own scars or areas that are kind of trauma spots in their body? So if you have a scar, and even if you don't, you can always just sort of feel around. Like if you're going to work, if you have a vulva and you want to work intervaginally, and you can feel around if there's any place that doesn't feel like it's slidey or glidey. And so really like what scar tissue remediation is doing is we tend to use mostly castor oil because it has anti-inflammatory properties and it's very good at breaking up scar tissue. You don't have to use castor oil, but it just tends to work the best is what we've noticed. So, but like anything, coconut oil or something, really like very loving touch is going to do wonders. So if you feel a scar, if you have a scar, what I recommend is to get some castor oil. And if you're going to go on any sort of mucous membrane, I would test it on your skin first. So you can put it on your wrist and see if there's any allergic reaction. And then if there's not, after about 24 hours, then you can use it on your vulva if needed. But what I like to do is like genital mapping, I like map the scar. So like touching it, going down, going around it. Is it traveling anywhere else? And sort of just like getting to know it. Because a lot of people with their scars, we tend to kind of just don't touch it. It doesn't feel good. Yeah, it doesn't even exist, and it's a lot for people. So taking your time, being really gentle. But if you're doing any sort of massage on it, like getting a little bit of castor oil and just doing things like circles over holding. You can just kind of stretch the skin a little bit. You can pluck it after a period of time and you'll notice it change. So if you're doing it over time, you're definitely going to notice like, oh, there's a total shift in how this looks or how this feels. I have more sensation here. I have a body worker friend who does Lomi. They live out in Hawaii, and they were telling me that for body workers, like actual just massage therapists who are usually using their hands, the average lifespan of their career is like only 5 or 7 years because it's so hard on the body.
Yep.
And that she believes, and so what she had to do is start learning to use her feet. So she walks on people and she's absolutely amazing what she does. But you also see her when she's at her home, she's constantly working on her own body. She's on little rollers and balls, and she's not just like doing yoga. She's literally massaging her own body. And she says that she believes that just as equally as she goes and works on other people, she needs to work on herself. And that this applies to everyone, that we all have the ability to work and tend to ourselves, but most people are not doing it, or we're waiting for someone else to do it. And yes, I understand going to someone else, especially what you're talking about. I'm sure plenty of listeners still are like, I hear what you're saying. I don't know how to do it. So yes, it would be great for you to go and have a session or 3 or 5 or forever with the sexological bodyworker, so that you can have that experience. But then equally going home and doing the practices is so important.
It is necessary. Yeah. Pretty much for anything to do with the body is practice over time. I noticed recently I haven't been getting massages and I got injured, and when I went to go get one, my body, it was out of practice of receiving. And so it just couldn't even relax all the way. So I was like, I am scheduling another one.
Yeah, I need another one. Yeah.
I need to relax more, And so I like your friend, I totally believe that.
Yeah. Everyone go
all
and
the time,
learn some practice. Yeah. Whenever you can. Even I was noticing too, I'll go through phases where I will be in certain environments, so I'll just let my hands caress my body. I'll be fully clothed, but they just run up and down just because it feels good to feel the sensation. And I'll even sometimes let them go over my breast. And there's certain environments that I'm in where I'm just like, I was at Hakomi and I was doing that, and I've been in plenty of environments where most people just don't do that. There's this belief, I can't touch myself in public, and I'm not like diddling my clit or anything, but I'm still doing something that feels good. I'm following a pleasure thread, and that is okay. And if other people have an issue with that, then we can talk about it, but come to me and talk about it. But I understand, if I was getting naked and touching my genitals in front of you, it'd be a different story. Okay, tell our listeners, because we need to wrap this up soon. What is the Erotic Art Project? You mentioned that you are an artist and you were doing art before you were doing sexological bodywork. What is it? Sounds like you've combined the two.
Yeah, I don't know if you remember, but I had a show at Pure Pleasure.
Yes. Yeah,
And so when I was doing training, the Somatic Sex Education training up in Canada, and I was like a dual student, half teacher, and part of that was doing a project. And I was just like, I always knew there was something, like I wanted them to be connected. So I incorporated playing with art supplies and being creative with my pleasure practice. And so it was a curiosity. Yeah. What happens, if I do them at the same time?
So you're self-pleasuring and doing art at the same time? Or is it like one before the other? How many hands do you have? Okay.
Well, you have to get everything set up.
Okay. Yes.
And it was a little bit of both. So, it depended on what I wanted to do, right? So sometimes it would be, I'd do, 20, 30 minutes or 40, whatever, of just a pleasure practice. And then I would go create something.
See what kind of creativity flows through you.
Or just what's coming out, and having a sketchbook, having no, no goal for that either.
No agenda.
Yeah, just here's a sketchbook. It's just meant for play. And so I don't have to make it a masterpiece.
It'd be like stick figures and
whatever I wanted to, being weird with it. It was great. And so it just started to develop from there. And so from there, I asked some folks if they would be willing to do the experiment. And so they created some artwork, we printed it out, and we had a show at Pure Pleasure. And so there's there's just the two things are so connected, right? Like
creativity
and sexuality. Like they're best friends.
If the folks who are into like chakras, right? When they say they come from the same place, where the second chakra is your drive, creativity, passion, sexuality, all just flowing out of this one place. And I'm not an expert in this realm of chakra world, but It makes sense. And I do know that when my sexuality is on fire, my creativity is on fire.
Yes.
I open up all of a sudden, I'm like, wow, all these ideas. I'm just so alive and driven. And when my sexuality is kind of turned down, my creativity can still be alive, but it has less of that like passionate fire that it can have.
Yeah.
They feed each other.
They really do. I feel the same way. I feel like, and especially when I like have the intention of carving time out for both, I'm a happier person.
Yeah.
You know, because both of these things that I love are being paid attention to. And it's joyful, you know? Yeah. And so you get to make a bunch of artwork. And so that's what the Erotic Arts Project is. And so
where do people find it?
So it's the Erotic Arts Project.life.
Okay.
And so I'll be having some online classes that are going to be coming out so people can practice in their home. And I'm hoping eventually to do another art show because I just loved that. I loved seeing all these like things that people made after wanking.
Yeah.
It's just like, what do they do and how they felt afterwards. And so
well, if you want to come back to Santa Cruz and do it at Pure Pleasure, we will host you.
All right.
So, okay, how can people, so that's for the Erotic Arts Project. So you offer, if you in the Bay Area, you're in Berkeley, you have an office here. People can do in-person in-person sessions here. You do work online. We tell our listeners more about all the ways they can work with you.
Yeah. So I do online coaching. That is definitely available. I like doing online coaching. And then, so that could look anything from if you want to develop a pleasure practice, if you want to learn more about your anatomy, anything really. And then the in-person stuff is the same, but it's going to be a little bit different because it can offer eventually hands-on. But there is a certain quality about being in person that being able to be like witnessed in person makes people feel really comfortable. And so I do scar tissue remediation. I work with mostly queer, trans, and non-binary folks and cis women. And so they can come set up an appointment with me. And usually people are just, I want something. There's a desire, like feel more connected. Okay. And then we, figure out what that is. But with scar tissue, I do work with people who have had gender affirming surgeries. And it's important to be able to come to a practitioner who I'm also non-binary and queer, and who's going to get your pronouns and call the body parts what you want them to be called, and help to affirm who you are, and the things that you like, and work on your scars and make it comfortable.
And so will you tell our listeners, because we talk about this on podcasts, will you remind our listeners as we close, I think this is just an important lesson, when you say non-binary, I think people know what queer means, but cis women and cis men and trans, will you just give us a quick little refresher when you say that you work with cis women? Who are you talking about?
I'm talking about when I work with what cisgendered is. So is someone like when they were born, the doctors are like,
"You're the girl.
It's a girl," and then throughout their life, they're like, "Yes, I'm a girl.
Yes,
she, her.
Yes.
These are feel totally, that feels right." So that
would be a cis woman.
Cis woman. Okay. Yeah.
And a cis man, same thing. It's a boy. And then later on through life,
I'm a man.
He, him.
Right. Yeah. And non-binary can mean so many things to so many people.
Someone who so many things, but they're not non-binary, meaning you're not following one line or one or the other. You're in between some spectrum and defining it yourself.
Yeah, exactly. Pretty much. So the binary is male, female. And so non-binary is, it's not always in between. It can, it's whatever our glorious bodies and minds can think of like how we want to express ourselves to the world and who we are.
And it could change per day.
It can. Yeah. It's so fucking cool.
Yeah. You get to choose. So you're saying, so I think that's helpful for our listeners. So in person, most of your work that you're doing is with queer and non-binary, trans or cis women.
Yeah.
Online, you'll work with all those folks, and you'll even work with some cis men online too.
I do, yeah, sometimes, and I have worked with them in person. I just think there are people who work with cisgendered heterosexual men who do really good work out there.
Yeah.
Who are like very good practitioners for that.
You're happy to refer them if you
because I just think they're doing great stuff. And and people who want to work with me are usually queer, trans, non-binary.
Well, and I knew I'm not queer, trans, non-binary, but I knew I needed to work with someone else who also owned a vulva. That was important for me, and I
got one.
And we did at that time. We don't have anyone in Santa Cruz that I knew of that was a sexological bodywork worker who owned a vulva. So without that, and it just felt really important to me, and I'm sure at some point I would be comfortable working with someone who owned a penis, but that's not where I was at. And so I think that was I was really grateful for that. And you used to live in Santa Cruz.
Yeah, I did. And like there is, I do have a lot of cis women who reach out, just maybe feel safer or something, or they like what I'm doing. And I really enjoy working with them. So
well, I'm grateful, super grateful for it. Will you remind our listeners what your website is?
My website is riverdrosera.life.
And that's DROSERA
.life.
And then there's the Erotic Art Project.life as well.
Yeah, check it out.
All right, everyone. Be sure to check it out. And I'm really grateful for you coming on our show and sharing more. And I'm sure I will share more as we continue to work together. And I go through my journey of understanding my body in a deeper way, or reconnecting with it, reclaiming, or I don't know what the fuck I'm doing, but I'm doing something. Something's happening, and I'm not set on being what it once was, but I'm set on it becoming mine again, whatever that is. Everyone go check out riverdrosera.life. We love our listeners. And yes, and if you haven't read a review about us, please go onto iTunes and write us a review. We love 5-star reviews, but if you don't love us, then we understand why you wouldn't write a 5-star review. Hopefully you do. And we listen to feedback. Don't be afraid to email us at shamelesssexpodcast@gmail.com. If you have suggestions on how we can be better, we pay attention to that and we read all the reviews. And lastly, you've heard us talk about Margins Wine. We love Margins Wine. And if you're a wine fan, you can find out why we love it so much. It is delicious wine made in Santa Cruz by a local woman, locally owned and operated one-woman show, delicious organic raw wine. So go to marginswine.com, check it out, get on her newsletter list, and I will leave you all with that. As April would say, ciao for now.
Bye.
Don't forget to head on over to our website at shamelesssex.com for more. And for 15% off of some of our favorite sex toys, use coupon code SHAMELESSPP in all caps at purepleasureshop.com.